Alright, so by this point you should have your border finished. You've drawn in your title block and you filled out the information using 1/8 inch lettering. I went ahead and used a little bit larger lettering for the title of this, so I put my office. So in this case I went ahead and chose to go with 1/4 inch lettering as opposed to the 1/8 inch, and that just makes it stand out, and you can do that. And you see my title number, the plate number, I've made very large, very bold, very easy to see. Okay, so now is the time that we switch over from just using a standard ruler to using our architect scale. All right, so if you remember from the last lesson where we talked about how to read the scale, we understand that there are multiple scales on this one ruler. All right, so what we want to, only one we were concerned about though is the 1/2 inch scale. So I'm going to flip this around until I find the 1/2 inch one. The 1/2 inch is the scale that we're doing this drawing in. I can ignore the rest. Now a little trick that I like to do is I'm going to use this mostly looking at it from this direction. So the 1/2 inch marks are over here, and it works from this direction moving across. So the way that I don't accidentally set it down incorrect and then have to keep flipping, I'll set this down so I see my 1/2 inch, and I like these little binder clips. See these little binder clips? I can take one of those and set that right on top, and that reminds me every time I pick this up and put it down, my 1/2 inch is right there. I never lose it. Alright? I could have it flipped around, but if I don't see it, I can flip it the other way and I'm automatically right back to my 1/2 inch. So there we go. That's the first thing to do. So let's set that aside. The other thing I did was I had 11 tall by 17 wide paper. I wanted to find the dead center of my paper. That way I have a sense of keeping my drawing as center as possible. I might need to move it up if my drawing is, my room is kind of wide, or if moving the room down puts it in the middle of the title block, I may want to have to move it up. But I don't want to have the drawing up in the corner or down in this corner. I visually want to have it in the center. So I find that center point, that helps a lot. I'm going to take my measurements of the room. So I'm going to ignore the furniture for now. I'm just going to go back to the walls. And I remember that my room was 9 foot 1 1/4 of an inch by 12 foot 8 1/2. All right, well that's my wider measurement. So since I'm dealing with a horizontal landscaped piece of paper, I'm going to go with that 12 foot 8 long ways, right? So longer measurement. So I ignore my ruler. I don't need that anymore. What I need is my architect scale. So in this case, I'm going to do some very light drawings on this to make sure that everything kind of is ghosted in. It's sort of placed in. I'm not going to put any dark lines, all right? No dark lines. So 12 foot 8 1/2. All right, well, I don't want to think too deeply right now. I'm just going to round that up to 13 feet just to kind of find where this at. 1/2 of 13 feet is going to be 6 feet 6 inches. So I'm going to start here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my 6 foot, and I move that over here. And then I go from the 0 over to the 6 inches marks, and I'm going to make just a little mark there. And then I'm going to go the same route the other direction. There's my 6, there's my 6. So that's how wide my drawing's going to be, right? So I'm still in there, I'm good. My walls will fit there. Now the other measurement I have is the 9 foot 1 1/4. Well, let's just round that up to, you would think round it down to 9 foot, but it's bigger than that. And plus we have the thickness of the wall to consider, so let's round that up to 10 feet. So what we'll do is from here, from our mark, we're going to find our 1/2 inch again, and we're going to go off of that 5 foot, right? So if I go here to the 5, I need to twist it because my board up here is in the way. But I'm going to measure from 1/2 inch down to 5, which puts it right there. And from here, again, 0 to 5 to make a little dot. And these are very light lines. So when I look at this, yes, that's center. That's where the room was. But that dot is lower than my title block. So I know if I draw that line over and this one down, it's going to come into my title block. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do, that's about a foot. So I'm going to move this whole drawing up about a foot, maybe even a foot and a half. We might go a little bit higher. So in this case, I'm going to, instead of 5, I'm going to measure from this dot down. Let's move down to 4. That's pretty close. Let's go to 3.5. Right, so let's do 3.5. That looks a lot better. So I've moved it up a foot and a half, and then I can take my eraser and kind of erase out that little dot. Right? I'm going to be careful not to smudge anything. And then I'm going to, from there, I know this is my bottom mark, right? I'm fine with the width. The height is what needs to change. So what I'm going to do is I now want to create some very light lines to outline my room. But this time I'm going to be a little more accurate. All right. So this bottom line, I think I've decided, is going to be my baseline for the whole thing to keep it nice and square. So to be safe, I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to use a regular ruler. And I'm going to measure from that dot down to the edge of my paper. And what I have here is 1, 2, 3 3/4 of an inch. So let's go over here, kind of in line with our dot. And again, make that same mark, 3 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to, just to be safe, let's do it over here too. Again, inside that line, 3 3/4. All right, there's a dot. And I'm going to lightly, barely, just ghost it in. Connect the dots. All right. So this will be my first line, okay? Now, I'm going to, from there, I know that mark, this wall here, we said that's our long wall. So we know that is 12 foot 8.5 inches. So, from the center mark, right? So I know the center here is, since this is a 17-inch piece of paper, is going to be 8.5. So I'm going to go to the edge 8.5, make a little mark here, and that just tells me where the center of this line is. And I have 12 foot 8.5 inches. So what I'm going to do, 12 foot's easy. That's 6 on either side. And so in this case, I'm going to go, did I do that measurement wrong? Let's see, there's 6. Okay, I see. I was looking at my dot, so I was incorrect. So 12 foot 8.5 would, if I split that in half, I want half and half, all right? So I break that down, half of that's going to be 6 foot, half of that's going to be 4 inches, and half of that's going to be 1/4 of an inch. So I need 6 foot 4 1/4. Can't really do 1/4 inch. So let's just make this simple. Let's reduce it to 6 foot 4 inches, right? You can do that. That's fine. So there's 6 foot. We go to the 0, and we go 1. Remember, the next longest line is going to be 3. And then the mark after that will be 4. So there's 6 foot 4 inches. Same thing here. So we go 0. The first long line is 3. Then the next long line is going to be 4. So then there's the next one, 6 foot 4. So now I have a wall that, if I double check from that mark to that mark, should be 12 feet 8 inches, and that's exactly what it is, 12 feet. So it goes from this 12 mark, remember we have to count, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then we go from 0 back, and we count those, we end up with 8 inches. So now we have our 12 foot 8 inch, all right? So that's our first wall. The next one, and the way I like to make sure things are square, is let's go off the edge of our paper. I'm going to use the regular ruler again. And this time I'm going to come up, I got off at the edge, I go up this to here, and I'm going to make a little mark on my ruler. And then I'm going to move up here and make a little mark, just a light line. And now I know that this is going to be nice and square. I didn't have to use a square or anything in order to do that. So I'm going to go up to roughly to where my dot was. Very light line, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue around doing that same process, all right? In this case, I'm going to come over here. My room is square, so I don't have to worry too much. This is one of the reasons I say pick a simple room in your house. So there's my mark. I come up here, line that up, make that same dot right there. Something shifted a little bit. That's okay. This is your first drawing, so it's all right. I'm not going to be so picky. All right. Now, I've got some ghost lines here, but now I remember that the height or the width of my room, remember we did the 12 foot 8.5. I'm going to go up now to 9 foot 1.25. I'm just going to reduce that to 9 foot 1. Just make it easy. So I'll go to my 1/2 inch. I'm going to start in this corner. Let's see if I can get rid of this thing. I'm not working at the bottom of my page. So in this case, I'm going to go to start at the 0. Then I'm going to move it to the 1 inch. Double check. And then I move all the way up to 9. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here's the 9 mark. And then I go over the same thing, do here. So I go 0. Then I moved it to the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's the 9 mark. And now we can connect the dots. All right, connect the dots. Again, very light line. We're just ghosting this in. We just kind of know where it's going to be on our paper. All right. So now I got to decide, since I have the square room, what is wall number 1? All right. So if I look at my drawing, I decided each wall, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to decide that this one is wall number 1. All right. So from this corner right here down, if you remember, our first measurement we came up was 4 1/4 inch. So let's just do that. We're going to go to, in our case, we can do around 4.5, or we can even maybe even split it if we're real careful. So I'm going to continue that line to the corner, and let's use our 4 1/4. So 1, 2, 3 is the long line, 4 1/4. All right, so we're just making a little mark there. Now the next one was the door, the physical door. And I know that that is 3 feet. So that one's easy. I just go 1, 2, 3 and make put the 3 on the mark I just made and the mark on the 0, and there's where my door is. And the remainder of the wall is the wall, so I don't need to worry too much about it. So I'll make a little note here with the light letter D so that's a door. All right, now I come to the next wall which had that window, remember? So I did it a little differently. In this case, I came from the corner, which is this corner here. This is the direction I went around the room. The first measurement was 3 foot 4. All right, let's see what that is. I've got this lined up at 3 feet. I go to the 0. Now I need to get the 4 inches, so I go 1, 2, 3, 4. There's where the beginning of the window is. The next measurement, I came off that same point. Remember I told you we did this one a little differently. We measured differently. We came every measurement off that same point. So the other side of the window was 9 foot 1/2 inch. So if I go here to the 9, I go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's the 9. And then the other part of it was 1/2 inch. So it's just barely on the other side of that 1, right before the 1. All right, so there's the one. I'm going to make a little W just very lightly. Remind me that's a window. And then the rest of it is the rest of the room. The other 2 walls didn't have anything on them, so I didn't worry about that. So here's the fun part. This is where we start connecting dots. I'm going to take a regular ruler, and since this is a cut, remember we said this is cut through the walls at about 4 foot. That means these walls are section lines. So I'm going to put my ruler on this edge here, and I'm going to put a nice, make that line from that first little mark nice and solid. All right. Now I'm going to ignore the door right now, and I'm going to draw from the other edge of the door to that wall nice and solid. Okay. And then I'm going to go from this corner to the edge of the window. Nice and solid. Alright, and then from the other side of the window to the corner of the wall. Nice and solid. And this wall here was easy. It didn't have anything on it. So no windows, no doors. So I'm going to take that all the way to the end. Nice and solid. Make a couple passes. And back to the beginning. All the way around. Alright. So there's the inside of our walls, right? But walls have thickness. Remember, we're slicing through the wall, so we have to accommodate for the thickness of the wall. And we said that that was 6 inches. So what we can do now that we've got the inside dimensions is I like to start where a door is. And I find my 6-inch mark, and I'm going to make a little dot. I'm going to put that on the 6-inch and make a little dot. And I'm going to come down here and make a little, go to 6 inches and make a little dot. And this, you'll find this is all the way around on the outside of the marks you just made. Make a little dot. And again down here, 6 inches. This is, again, we're using your rule here. Your architect scale, 6 inches. And then up here as well. And I like to start off by just ghosting it in. I don't like to get real, because if I mess up, I can use my eraser to get rid of it real quick. So I'm going to put this here, line the top one up. And I know I've got to go about 6 inches beyond, so I'm going to very lightly draw that in. Come to the next one. Very lightly draw it in. Come to the next one. Very lightly draw it in. You come all the way around. Alright, so we've done a light line all the way around our room. Now, the things we have to deal with now is the fact that there is a door opening and a window opening. So, for the sake of this, normally I would say use a square or a triangle and line your triangle up right with the edge of the window and make a little mark. And the same thing with the other side of the window. Line up with the line you just made and the little mark with the edge of the window. Make, again, this is the thickness of the window. Same thing goes with your door. Line this up. And we've got both sides of the door frame. Line this one up. So I'm using a triangle. You can probably use your ruler a little bit. So now I've made the little cutouts for where the doors and the windows go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to do anything with the door on the inside where the door hangs. I'm only going to worry about the walls. So from this corner all the way up to the door frame, I'm going to make a nice and thick line. Line this one up. From this edge of the window all the way to that corner, make that nice thick line. Other side of the window all the way to that corner. We don't go through the middle of the window. Remember, the window is has a sash and all that good stuff in it, so it doesn't. There's a physical object there we can touch. It's not a section, not in that area. So this corner I go all the way up. And along this edge. Okay, and along this edge. We did this bottom part. I didn't do this little top part, so I need to do that. Okay, so we've gone all the way around, and we've created all those little spots. Now here's something that's interesting. With the door frame, there's nothing at 4 foot, right? So if I open the door, there's nothing there. I can walk through here. But if I look at the top of the door, there's a area that is the header. It's above the door. It's above, but it's also above 4 feet. So I've already made a light line here, and I can do one of two things. I can either go ahead and just create a little dash line all the way across, because that would be a hidden line, right? This is one way to do it. Do little dash lines. Or the proper way is to take an eraser and erase it out. Oh, I dropped my mic. So if we take an eraser, we can quickly go and make... That eraser doesn't work either. Well, it's good to have your equipment working before you get started. Let's see if this works. So I have a little eraser here. So I'm going to make a little eraser marks here and create a set of some dashes all the way down so that it will read as a hidden line across there. So you might need to come back in, erase that out, and then draw that back in so that you have actual dashes going across there, and it'll actually read as a hidden line. Okay, so that now the difference between the door and the window is the window has a sill. It's got an area that you can put a drink there, you can put a potted plant there. So this is a physical thing. So we have an object line, not a section line. We have an object line that goes across that. All right. So I could physically put something on that. So that's a little different, right? So we've got some marks here. This might be a good time to come in and erase out some of these little marks that we don't need anymore. You know, you might need to get in the habit now as you're working on areas to put that little scrap paper down so that you don't smudge things like I just did. But now what we have is we essentially have our basic room set up, right? You can go in now and start working on including things like the door itself, the physical door, all the furniture that goes in it, and then we finally end with probably the more time-consuming part, which is create hatch marks inside the walls to make the walls have thickness. All right. So let's move on to that. We're going to go ahead. We've done our walls. We're done with that part. We've actually done the hidden line for the header of the door, and we've done the object line for the sill of the window. What only thing I'm going to do now is about halfway through the window, right? I would prefer to measure that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to draw another line, solid line across here, and that is the window pane, the actual pane of glass. That represents the window. My window actually has a little divider in the middle and has 2 panes. So that, depending on your window, you need to kind of look, is it a sash window? Is it a shutter window? And find out what is the symbol for that. All right. The other thing I often do is I will actually put a W in the middle of it to tell the crew or tell the shop that it's a window. For the door, we knew that it was 3 feet. So remember, I'm using my thing, I had it flipped around, so I used my little clip to help myself here. And I'm going to take this, go to the 3 feet mark, and I'm going to make a little mark here to the 0. And a door is always about 1.5 inches thick. So it's going to get a couple, and it's a section line, it's very thick. So in this case, it's going to get measured 1.5 inches, and I'm going to fill that guy in. I'm going to make it nice and solid so that I know that that is a door. All right. Now my door swings into the room. Some doors might swing outside, so I know it hinges on this little corner. So now I've created a line that opens up, and then what I'll do is later I'll use my compass to create that little sweep to know that I can't put any objects in this area, or that door would hit it, right? All right. I'm going to make my way around the room, so I know I have to put in my furniture. So I'm going to start off with this corner, just so it's the furthest away from me. I'm less likely to smudge all my drawings. And I have a desk table that goes this direction. It's my desk number 2. It is 7 feet long and 2 feet wide. So this is easy. I go from that corner, and I'm going to measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Make a little dot. Come down again and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Make a little dot. And again, it's 2 feet wide, so I go to that corner. I go 1, 2, make a little dot. And go to where my little marks are and go 1, 2, make a little dot. And I'm going to connect the dots. Really simple. Okay. So at this point, I have my first piece of furniture in there. Now that doesn't really tell anybody what that is. So I would measure. I'm going to cheat here, guy. I have a little template here for my lettering, and I find the one that says 1/8 inch, which is this one here. And I'm going to line that. I'm going to make 2 little guide marks for myself. Let me go the other way. 1/8 inch. I'm going to make a little guide mark here. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Excuse me. At 32nd of an inch. Alright, so I'm going to make a little light guide mark, a guide mark. In this case, I'm going to write desk. Alright, so there's my desk, right? Now I have a second desk that comes this direction. So I know that that measurement is 5 foot 10 inches by 2 foot 5. So I'm going to start with the 2 foot 5. All right, so there's 2 foot 6. I subtract 1, there's 6. I go to 1, 2 feet right there. I move down here, there's 2 feet 5. Make a mark. From that same corner, it's 5 feet exactly, right? Let me double check. 5 foot 10. See, that's why we double check. So we go 4, 5, there's our 5, and we go down to 10, so there's 9, 10. 9, 10, okay. 4, 5, 9, 10. And connect the dots. All right, and now what I like to do is typically I like all my lettering to be the same direction or 2 directions. So you can read it like this and read it like this. So I'm choosing the 2 direction method because I find that to be the most acceptable. So in this case, I'll line my little template up here. I'm going to make my little guidelines, and I'm going to write in desk. Alright, so I've got desk and desk. Alright, so I'm going to mark those off my list. I have a chair that's in this area, so I'm gonna have some fun with that. This one is 1 foot 9 by 2 foot 2. And so I go 1 foot, this is right here, I'll do it kind of at an angle. So we go 1 foot 9, and it's 2 foot 2. I need to make my little, use my triangle here. I'm going to use a triangle. You could use anything else you could think of that might be helpful. That's actually, is square. So this is 2 feet 2 inches. Okay. 1 foot 9. So let's see how close I am to that. 2 feet 2 inches right there. So in this case, I'm going to again use my little sheet here. And I'm going to keep it aligned. Now I'm not aligning it with the chair, I'm aligning it with this direction looking at it. So when I'm holding the paper, I can either read it like this or I can turn it like this, and my words are always aligned. Okay. Again, I'm using those block letters. So there's my chair. Now I have another chair that's over here. So I'm going to mark off the first chair. This one is 1'8" by 1'10". So I know it's right next to that door. I'll just kind of cheat it down here. So 1 foot, 1'8". So that's right there, 1'8", and 1'8". And let's see, we'll make, again, I'm going to use my ruler, or my square, because I know it's right up against the wall. And now I need to come down 1'10". 1'10", there's 9, there's 10. And I come from there 1'10". Okay, there's where it goes. And I'm going to use my little, I'm using everything as a straight edge, as you probably notice. I'm not being very consistent with that, but that's okay. All right. In this case, I'm going to, I think I'll have it go the other direction. So my guidelines, right chair. Okay. And the last piece of furniture you need to worry about is the two little bookcases. So the first tall bookcase is about a few inches off the corner there, and it is 2'6". So I'm going to kind of guess where I want to put it. It's roughly here. So there's 2'6". And I'll use my square to come off the wall. I'm going to use light lines. This should be 1'11". 1'11", all the way there. All the way up there. There's a 1 foot mark. And now, remember, I got to do object lines. This is an object. Now this is one of those tricky ones. This object is actually taller than 4 feet, our section line. We could choose to look at this like it's a section, but typically a lot of times we don't do that with furniture. We ignore that and just say, you know what, it's a bookcase, good enough. We're not going to worry that it's and be so strict about the section that we would actually create a section on it. So this is a bookcase. Okay, so there's a bookcase there. And then we have another one which is 5'3". It's right under the window. It's a little bit, so it's 5'3". Yeah, I tried to center it into the window, so I'm going to guess it's centered. So there's 3, there's 5. And I'm going to use my square to come off the window. Like that. And like that. And this is 11 inches. I went way too far on that, but that's okay. There's a 0. And there's a 0. Connect the dots. Alright, so this is a object, so let's make a nice and solid line. Nice and solid line. Alright. Went too long, so I'm using my eraser here to get rid of that. Alright. So now, again, I'm going to measure and make my label. I want to label my bookcase here. So I've got my little build a template here. And I have a right bookcase here too. Okay. All right, so now I've got all my furniture laid out in the room. The thing I need to deal with now is anything that is hidden. So in this case, I could do multiple things. Like I know that I have a little bookcase that is a container under here. So if I wanted to, I could say, well, my my drawer to this desk is at 2 feet wide. And I know I could put a little dot there and a little dot here. And I know between those lines, this is hidden underneath the desk, so I can make a dashed line here, right? So that tells me there's something underneath the desk, so I could do that. Another thing I can do with the room is I need to show things that are above. In this case, I have a 2 rectangular fluorescent lights that hang above my desk. So it's essentially 8 foot long. So I know my room, I've made my little dot, but I'm going to double check. So this is, remember we said 6 foot, 6-ish or whatever. So what I can do is, that's my dot, and I know 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's right on the line of my of my chair. Now another trick you can do to find center is to go make a little X in the middle. You go to the corner of the room, right like this, and you make just a really faint line, and then you go the same way to the other corner of the room, and that's dead center of the room right there, right? That's another way to find it. That's pretty much in line with the dot I made, so I'm going to use that anyway. The other thing to think about is I need to know that the window, the light fixtures up there is 2 feet wide. So I'm just going to put one of my marks here and go 1 foot on one side and 1 foot on the other. And I know, let's see, where else can I put that? That is, let's see, and then if I measure from one end of that, this is kind of an easy way to find your marks. Make a little mark on your ruler here, and then you can transfer that down to say here where I can find where the other end of that is, right? So I know that 0 is right there, 0 is there, go to that mark, 0 is here. And I know from center it was 8 foot, so I go put that on the 4, and I make that line that up. And this time, remember, it's hidden, so I'm only going to make a dashed line. So dash, 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 dash. All these are dashed lines, all the way to 8 feet. There's 8 foot. I'll make a little mark at 4. And I'm going to come down off of that 2 feet, 1, 2, right there, and off of this mark down 2 feet, 1, 2. I've already got that set up, so now I go connect those with those dashed lines, dash, dash, dash. That tells me it's above. I measured my little light fixtures earlier. Same thing here. It's all above, so I get all these little dashed lines. Tell me, now this one's running exactly in line with my desk, but I'll go ahead and put them in anywhere. And then this one here. Okay. Now one thing I like to do with something like this is I'll make a little, I'll find a place to put a leader line. All right, in this case I'm going to make my measurement here, and I'm going to put let's put in light fixture, L-I-G-H-T, and I can make a double line if I want. All right, so there I put light fixture. Now, what I'll do is I'll make a little dot, and this is kind of fun. I like to do this. These are leader lines. I'm going to take and make a little squiggle S line that goes up to my label of light fixture. In this case, I go here and I go all the way up to that. And on this, I'm going to put a little arrow. That is a leader. That little line is a leader. That tells me that this thing that's in here is a light fixture. So the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to erase that little X that I made earlier because I don't like that. That confuses me a little bit. Probably will confuse someone else. And I might erase a little bit of my extension lines from my writing because they're not necessary. All right? Yes, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a compass to try to do the door swing. Now the door swing is one of the ones that you would think would be a dashed line, but it's not. And you might even think it would be a phantom line because it's actually something that travels. But it's one of the exceptions that actually just gets a solid line with an arrow. So what I'm going to do is I have my compass here. Now if you don't have a compass, just try to find something that's got a curve to it, like a pop can lid or maybe something else that's roughly the same diameter as all the way around as this. And you're going to very carefully line that up with the corner of the wall where the door connects and the opening of the door, and I'm going to just make that line here. Let's make that work. All right, so there, that is the opening. The last thing I do is I make a little arrow there. That arrow tells me that that door swings open. Okay? That completes the main drawing. The only thing we've got left now is to do dimensioning and our final cross hatching. That's it. After that, this drawing is finished. All right, so we'll pick that up in the next one.